The relationship between refined carbohydrates and heart disease is often downplayed, overshadowed by decades of blame placed solely on saturated fat. But growing research continues to reveal a more disturbing truth. Diets rich in white rice, white bread, sugary cereals, pastries, and processed snacks, carbohydrates stripped of their fiber, vitamins, and minerals, are quietly accelerating the rise of cardiovascular disease across the globe. These refined carbs are not just empty calories. They are active contributors to metabolic dysfunction, systemic inflammation, and the silent progression of arterial damage. When you consume a diet high in refined carbohydrates, your body digests these foods rapidly, flooding your bloodstream with glucose. In response, your pancreas releases insulin to shuttle that sugar into cells. While this process is normal in moderation, repeated surges of glucose and insulin, meal after meal, day after day, begin to wear down the system. Excess glucose is eventually converted into fat, particularly triglycerides, by the liver. High triglyceride levels are one of the most reliable predictors of cardiovascular risk, yet they are rarely discussed in mainstream nutrition, which continues to obsess over cholesterol alone. And here's where the link becomes more dangerous. Refined carbs don't just raise triglycerides, they also lower HDL, good cholesterol, which is responsible for removing excess cholesterol from arteries. The result is a damaging combination: more fat in the blood and less capacity to clean it up. This sets the stage for atherosclerosis, the thickening and hardening of arteries that leads to heart attacks, strokes, and peripheral artery disease. Meanwhile, the rapid digestion of refined carbs creates a state of chronic blood sugar volatility. These roller coaster spikes and crashes lead to the formation of advanced glycation end products, AGEs, harmful compounds that damage blood vessel linings and trigger inflammation. This chronic, low-grade inflammation is a key driver of plaque buildup in arteries. Over time, the inner walls of the arteries become irritated and scarred, attracting white blood cells and oxidized LDL particles that accumulate and narrow the blood vessels. Another consequence of high refined carbohydrate intake is the development of insulin resistance, a metabolic state where the body's cells no longer respond efficiently to insulin. As insulin levels rise in a desperate attempt to manage blood sugar, the hormone begins to exert other harmful effects on the cardiovascular system. Chronically elevated insulin promotes the retention of sodium, raising blood pressure, and it stimulates the growth of vascular smooth muscle cells, contributing to arterial stiffness. The result is a perfect storm of hypertension, dyslipidemia, and vascular damage, the core components of what is known as metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome, which affects nearly 1 in 3 adults in many developed countries, is not a rare or theoretical risk. It is real, widespread, and heavily fueled by refined carbs. And once this condition sets in, the likelihood of heart attack or stroke increases dramatically, often long before symptoms appear. Many people eating high-carb diets feel fine, even energetic, until their first major cardiovascular event strikes, often without warning. By then, the damage has been accumulating for years, quietly fueled by foods they assumed were benign or even healthy. Let's be clear, this isn't about the occasional slice of bread or bowl of rice. It's about the pervasive nature of refined carbohydrates in modern eating habits. These starches are present in virtually every meal: breakfast cereal, toast, pancakes, sandwiches, pasta, chips, crackers, cookies, and sugary drinks. They dominate supermarket aisles, school lunches, fast food menus, and even many hospital and nursing home meals. The constant intake keeps insulin elevated, triglycerides high, and inflammation simmering below the surface. Even more disturbing is the fact that many low-fat, heart-healthy products marketed to the public, fat-free yogurts, diet granola bars, rice cakes, and whole wheat breads, are often packed with refined starches and sugars that contribute directly to heart disease risk. The public, misled by outdated dietary guidelines and food marketing, often replaces natural fats with these supposedly safer carbs, not realizing that they are trading one risk for another, arguably worse, threat. Over time, the cost becomes clear: narrowing arteries, thickening blood, and a heart under constant strain. Unlike saturated fat, which the body can use efficiently in moderation, refined carbohydrates offer little nutritional value and produce a cascade of physiological responses that damage cardiovascular health from multiple angles. It's not just the sugar, It's the speed at which the body processes it, the metabolic chaos it creates, and the slow, quiet march toward disease that it accelerates. The uncomfortable truth is that many cases of heart disease are not simply the result of genetics or bad luck. They are the predictable outcomes of dietary choices driven by convenience, misinformation, and mass production. Until refined carbohydrates are recognized as a central villain in the story of cardiovascular disease, the heart health crisis will continue to worsen, affecting people younger and younger, often long before they understand what's happening inside their own arteries. Protecting your heart means more than cutting back on red meat or saturated fat. It means reevaluating the starches and sugars that have become staples, questioning food labels that disguise danger with healthy-sounding terms, and choosing whole, unprocessed foods that nourish rather than destabilize. The time to take carbohydrate overload seriously is not after your first chest pain or bypass surgery. It's now, before the damage becomes permanent.